Batman issue 109, James Tynion the fourth and Jorge Jimenez on the art. This is, of course, following up this. I don't always start this sounding down because I think it's a solid enough issue. I do have one kind of pacing complaint, I would say, in the issue, but it's kind of just a solid middle chapter, and that's with all the positives and negatives that come along with that statement, I think. Which is to say that I'm still enjoying the ongoing status quo. I'm enjoying the inclusion of Oracle in the ongoing plot. I like that Batman's going to Simon Saint. I did think that when we cut to Ghostmaker and Harley, I didn't have a problem with their sort of chemistry, but I did feel that scene went on for such a long time and pivoted into a whole other plot when that other character showed up.
It was, but it was also probably the most interesting part of the issue.
For me, being a massive Ivy fan, the fact that Tynion is teasing something huge through Harley and whatnot, I agree with Pete that it is a little weird to throw this in here, but it makes me excited nonetheless.
I think it's really interesting how we're getting what's happening with Ivy teased across like 3 separate books right now.
Yep.
Yeah, I was getting the impression, because the way Ivy's teased in this book, it was sounding more like the cold side of her, the one that's growing under the city, as opposed to the more human side that Catwoman's just been able to sort of rescue.
Well,
definitely.
And then when you throw in stuff that's happening in Swamp Thing, there's so much going on with Ivy on so many different fronts right now that I feel spoiled.
Yeah.
So,
but all of it's very cohesive as well.
I always say that Superman's like a trinity in and of himself, right? Because you got Superman, you got Clark Kent, and then you got Kal-El. I feel that about Ivy right now, because you have the green version of her, you have this cold one that's teased here, and then you have the one, like Pete said, in Catwoman. That's the more human Pamela side. So, again, not going to be upset with that. I will say that Ghostmaker is a lot more tolerable in something like this with Harley, right? Someone who's more his speed than up against Bruce. I think that contrasts a little bit too much, but someone that's kind of closer to his vibe, I wasn't as annoyed as I am with him. But I think that's kind of the point, right? I think like he's working a young buck stick right now.
It's the bit where he's like out and out, like, no, I'm a psychopath, like clinically diagnosed as a psychopath.
Yeah.
And I thought I'll do something different with it, and it's not ego, because by definition he's a psychopath. He doesn't have an ego in the same way.
Right. Well, it's like I could have been a titan of industry, but I decided to clean up the world instead. And
just because, almost.
Yeah, and again, that's reading Tynion's newsletter. You kind of see where he's at on the political spectrum.
Yeah.
And you kind of see the shots thrown a little bit there. So yeah, you guys don't have to do the same thing all the time. You can be a psychopath and do other things. Not tear apart the world. So you can do some good.
A lot of opportunities for psychopaths in the world. Been untapped. Yeah, so the book starts with Bruce asking Babs to sort of like look for any info on Simon Saint. We find out there's been more Scarecrow stuff. Probably my favorite thing about this issue, it's been kind of one of my favorite things that's ongoing in the main Batman book, is the constant checking in on the mood in the city and how the city feels, and that they're at a tipping point. There's a lot of talk here at the start when she's talking about these 2 extra Scarecrows that have popped up in other public places. You said it yourself, it's basically the effects of a fear toxin without any actual fear toxin. Everyone's just starting to ramp up. And I like that. We're getting this sense that the city's been worked up into a frenzy. I dig that. Why Babs is randomly eating a taco, I don't know. But,
that's not a taco. That's a gyro. That's some shawarma.
Oh, it's a kebab, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it is. You can see the tomato sticking out, a little bit of lettuce. I don't know if I was on the last time we've talked about Jimenez drawing Babs, but it's like, as the kids say, it's a whole mood. Like, where's my Jimenez Babs book? Like,
you just like the shot of her at the top in the chair. Yeah.
I mean, with the
leg over the arm.
The leg over the arm, and just the look on her face.
She looks very judgmental holding her kebab as she's talking to Bruce.
Yeah, yes. just her whole vibe here with Jimenez, and it's just he's one of my favorite Bat artists.
On the subject of Jimenez, there's a detail in the next page that I quite like. Is Batman puts on his kill, and I kind of like where the eyes on his face look. It looks like it's not on right yet. There's a kind of like a separation where it's like, it's not quite into place yet with the eyeshadow or whatever it is it uses.
Well, and much like his headspace, it's off kilter,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I
So
think it was because it's very rare you see the cowl kind of like that, because he's pulling it
Mhm.
away, and you see kind of underneath and the stretch of the cowl material
Yeah.
itself, and you never see that.
Mhm.
It's either on or it's off. There's no in between usually.
right,
So,
it's not hanging from him.
It's
yeah.
that
Yeah.
one episode of Power Rangers where you finally saw them in the suits with the helmets off, because you never saw
Yeah.
it, and it was like, whoa! They actually had the
Yeah.
actors in suits.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Little peek behind the curtain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's neat.
Yeah.
It sticks out because it's unusual, not because it's good or bad in its own right.
Right.
It's just different.
Well, also I like that we've all seen the image of Christian Bale as Batman with the eye black.
Mhm.
It's like the things that you don't see.
Mhm.
So I kind of like that this is him, and is also going like, no, Bruce doesn't actually wear eye black.
Do you know what?
Yes,
My favorite thing about the trailer for the new movie, which we got like 2 years ago now,
Was-
is the fact that he still has like the black around his eyes when the
Mhm.
cowl's off, because every other movie's
Yeah.
just magically had it not be there every time he
Mhm.
takes the cowl off. And it's
Yeah.
such a simple little thing, but I appreciate them saying, no, he'd have like his eyes, like his makeup would still be on.
Right, he's theatrical. I like that they're leaning into that side of Bruce.
So,
But yeah, so
I think.
and with the Ghostmaker and Harley stuff, I just want to mention the dinosaur.
Oh, I laughed at that. I knew you were going to pop at this, because this is a Jurassic
Yeah.
Park 3
Yeah,
reference.
and
Yeah.
just the fact that he wanted a dinosaur and he got a Spinosaurus because it's better than T-Rex. I was like, ugh, I hate you, Ghostmaker, so much.
Well, no, actually,
Yes.
the word he said was bigger, which I think
Right.
ties into the ego thing. Well, when it's not
Yeah.
an ego, but it kind of is, because he's clearly competing with Batman.
Yeah.
So,
And I like Harley too. Is like, oh, so all you guys have a place like this now, huh? You got your car, your ghost car, your dinosaur.
It's like, oh, no. Car's a piece of junk. That's been burnt.
Yeah.
yeah, you can't compete with the Batmobile, so it's worthless. It's going to
No.
be melted. And you can just sort of see
Right.
behind Harley's eyes going, I'll take it. You
Yeah.
don't need to melt it.
Wait,
Yeah.
and she says, wait, Batman had a freaking dinosaur in his cave? And then of course we get the bat expletives, which I still love. It's such a
Yeah.
nice lettering touch.
Yeah, yeah.
So good.
Yeah, they do a
But-
bit of fencing, which is
Mhm.
kind of foreplay-esque.
Yeah.
It might be, it may not be. And then we get this character pop up who was teased a little bit ago, the gardener, who
Yep.
turns out is someone that Ivy knew when she was younger.
Yeah. Pamela. So even
Oh.
before she was Ivy, when she was in school and had
Yeah.
dreams of actually saving the world via botany, and then this I guess this gardener was her first girlfriend, back in college, but the gardener also specializes in plant, mammal hybrids. So it looks like she has these hounds made out of plants and stuff. So this is a
They're
nice,
cool as shit.
interesting.
I like them.
It's
Yeah.
a very... Not obviously not everything, but there's a particular type of enemy that pops up once in a while that this is very Resident Evil of. The
Mhm.
idea of building like a plant-based entity
Yeah.
of some kind.
Yeah.
So I'm,
So and I like that because it also plays into kind of the cycle of life and death comic that happened right before Rebirth. That's the type of stuff Ivy was getting involved in, was the plant human kind of hybridy thing.
Yeah, that
So
led to a lot of what that book was.
And so the fact that we have a character here that's playing into that and I feel like the gardener is definitely the key to putting that trinity of Ivy together, of plant human, where we're going to get her. So, but no, this is the type of Batman world building that I love, because for the longest time with the Snyder Bat book, he was world building, but it wasn't Gotham. It was very much Bruce Wayne, as everything was stemmed from him. Whereas here, this is all very Gotham based.
I think it's different in that his was still Gotham based. It was just a very insular Gotham.
Right.
I don't think this is Snyder's fault. I think this was more an
No.
editorial fault
Well,
in that
and it,
I mean,
They
yeah,
think
we
the
make it feel cohesive
we-
across
we-
the board. Whereas here now, editorial are
right.
the ones.
we've
But
said
I do
this
feel like-
we've said this before. New
Right.
52 across the board, everything felt like it wasn't having a supporting cast, and that's
It's-
just that was just one of the
Yeah.
offshoots of
Well,
that, basically.
I just mean like the way that Snyder thought about Bruce versus the way that Tynan. I feel like Tynan takes from that and he does his version of it, right? Because he was a student of Snyder's. So it's built from there and it's similar, but I feel like Tynan's interested in little details in Gotham, whereas Snyder's kind of like, how does this impact Bruce Wayne's view of
I
Gotham?
appreciate as well though that it works in continuity as character growth for Bruce, rather than just us seeing different writers' takes on it.
Right. So but like I like the idea of this Gardner's been in Gotham, but she's actually good at being whatever she does. So, Batman hasn't had to be on her tail or whatever, so she's just been kind of operating underneath everything.
Yeah.
So, and I like that Harley clearly knows who she is because of her past. And that page right there, that's split, it's at the top. You have Joker on one side in purple and then Ivy on the other side in the blue. I just like that's such a great encapsulation of Harley. And I even think it calls back to the animated show, right? Like, there's
and just
so
the
many
coloring on that as well
influences.
just works really well with the because the ends of her hair like the blue and the pink, and they're on the opposite sides. It just flows really nicely.
Yeah. So also I like the idea her real name is Bella Garten, which that's such a comic book name for somebody.
Garten's very close to Guard, and then Bella just makes me think of Bella Lugosi, and she's sort of got a almost very suave vampire-esque kind of appearance.
Well, there's that, but Bella also in both Spanish and Italian means beautiful. Garten in German is garden, your meeting place. So her name is actually Beautiful Garden. I just, again, comic book names are fun.
Yeah. I will say, I do think this scene, now admittedly, because the rest of it is sequential, when we cut to Saint Industries, I'm not sure you could split it up into two chunks, but it did feel like it could have done with maybe have the new character, have the gardener walk in as a sort of cliffhanger of the end of a scene, and then come back to it after. I think would have been better for me.
That's fair, and it's easy to split the final section. As much as it is played as one section here, you can cut away after they introduce Peacekeeper and do a few pages something else before you come back for the last couple.
Yeah, I felt like it's just been on a long time, and it felt like a really weird pacing thing in the book, but. We go to Saint Industries, and this is exciting because we've been building to all this stuff. Batman's finally on the trail of Saint, and he comes in. The guard dude with the fancy biotic arm tries to fight Batman. Of course, it doesn't go well for him because he's Batman.
I love that kick. Again, Jimenez's art here, it's just a blur, right? Is that Batman absorbs the dude's arm, and then just puts the dude out.
Yeah, this is
just because he knows.
This is basically, when they were doing Enter the Dragon, they had to tell Bruce Lee to slow down his kicks and punches because they weren't getting captured on film.
But it definitely makes Batman feel like a physical threat because we know what's coming with Peacekeeper 1 because we saw in Future State, right?
Yeah.
So here this establishes him as this big, Batman's not immortal, right? Look at him holding up Simon Saint on the next page, and he's massive.
We also say it's just like wearing flip flops.
Yeah, and we also that's actually a really nice touch, the flip flops. But we also have better context now for who this Peacekeeper 1 is. We have a bit of a backstory. There's a bit of context for him.
Right.
I think that full page spread where Batman's looking over his shoulder. I think just the symbolism, the idea that something's coming from behind and you're looking over your shoulder, is that something sneaking up on you. And the idea that even though we've been expecting this magistrate because of Future State and because of all these teases and these Simon Saint scenes, this is the first time Batman's hearing of the magistrate.
Right.
Yeah, and it's the way here that it's drawn that Batman is towering over Saint. Even when he's holding him up, the size difference is so clear. And then this full page where it shows Peacekeeper 1, he looks huge, and Batman is looking up. You can see just from the way his eyes are shaped.
Yeah, and then he gets, as the kids would say, yeeted up into the ceiling, but then there's an explosion outside in the city. This is where it feels like there's a lot of stuff going on. This beyond just the fight that Batman's in. It feels bigger than that because then there's an explosion across the city, and Simon Saint's dialogue suggesting that it's City Hall because obviously we won't recognize it from the skyline. It's got things like that distinct.
But and it's it's that Adrian Veidt, everything's going according to plan.
Yeah,
because he's like, they could even blow up City Hall, and then boom.
It's that it's that classic end of Act 2. You have to put the hero at the lowest in the sense that it's not just that he's getting his ass kicked. It's that while he's down, he's looking across and seeing his city. Dark Knight Rises, it's the same thing where not only does he get beaten, it gets put in a thing, then he has to watch on the news people in Gotham being hung or hanged and whatever.
Yeah. It's not enough to lose. You have to lose completely.
Yeah.
The belly of the whale.
So he uses some fancy, bat smoke and cuts through a hole in the floor to try and get away from Peacekeeper. And it's at this point where it feels almost like a victim running from a Terminator. Then it does like a superhero versus villain fight. And then there's just the final page of like Batman trying to strike and not looking like it's going so well, and that's our cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So
I do like how all the threads are coming together in the Bat books. Like this is some superior editorial work, right? Because if you're not reading Detective, you just get a little bit of a hint of the stuff that's happening.
There's a great the reference to what we really don't need is that reporter writing a piece about is that was a nice touch.
And how Mr. Worth is we got to keep him placated because he's a powerful man in Gotham still that they don't exactly have on their side, so and then again with all the Ivy stuff with Catwoman, it's just there's a lot of synergy going on here that I enjoy. And then this is the one confusing part of here is them in Unsanity, where Babs was basically talking about that the public seems to think that the Unsanity Collective is actually led by Scarecrow.
Yeah, and the indication I got is later on in the issue when Saint's like, let's keep pushing that story. It sounded like it was, if it didn't originate from them as a piece of like sort of fake news essentially, then at least they're willing to keep it going because it works for them and their benefit.
And I understand that, but in this plan, you would think that the group that's causing chaos, but not your chaos, you'd want to get control under, and
that's probably plan A, but plan B is, well, if we can't get control of them, let's just use the narrative to our advantage.
Yeah, make them a scapegoat, make them public enemy number one so that the suspicion is away from them.
Yeah.
Right. No, I was just, there's a lot of balls in the air, and I lost it on that one going like, well, wait. That's not at all what we saw with the Insanity Collective last time with Bruce.
Yeah. It just it's not a big deal, but technically we skipped over the very start of the issue, which is just more of the tease of Batman being held captive by Scarecrow.
Yes, more of the horrible text. I hate that every single time I open a book because I forget about it because there's like 2 weeks between issues. And then I open the Batman issue and I go, God damn it, I got to put up with this for like 2 pages. And it's just it annoys me every single time I open an issue right now.
Yeah. I know. So it's a good issue. I started off by saying it's maybe one of the weaker ones of the arc, and I would stand by that for a couple of reasons, but it doesn't mean I'm not excited about everything it's doing, and all the plot threads. I mean, while I do think it spends one continuous scene too long on the Harley and Ghostmaker stuff, I do like that we can spend half, if not more than half, of a Batman issue not necessarily focusing on Batman himself. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I know some people, Twitter's a place where you maybe get complaints when it's called Batman. It should be at least 70% of it should be Batman. Blah blah blah.
I want to promise you'll never hear me saying that ever. Not even if there's a fire.
Oh dear. I will confess though, I didn't bother reading the backup this time.
Okay.
And Batman.
Did you read it, Connor?
I haven't read the last one either.
Yeah.
Just real quick, it's another one of the origin stories of one of the villains that's assembled on Devil's Skull Island. And basically this guy was experimented on. It seems like he's from let's see, I don't want to assume. I don't think they say, I can't look, but basically he has like telekinetic powers and he was experimented on. So he decided to take matters into his own hands to save like other kids that were being experimented on. But that was used by wherever he's from, the government.
New Delhi.
Yeah, okay, so he's from India. From the government basically using Ghostmaker as a lure to trap this guy. So it almost as if he kind of started as an anti-hero but went a little bit too far. And it's kind of to show the spectrum where Ghostmaker is, right? Because he's not exactly a anti-hero that way either, So it's just basically their kind of rivalry in that Ghostmaker's responsible for him being trapped and, you know, not being able to save the people like he wanted to, because Ghostmaker accuses him of just selling out and becoming a mercenary. And then just basically Ghostmaker freed himself with the laser tiger skulls, you know, and it's coming up on the main villain, on Madame Midas. So, I mean, it was okay. It's, you know, it's more Ghostmaker. I'm not a big fan of his. So
yeah, I wasn't planning on not reading it necessarily. I got to the start of it and there was like, I've got like 8 books to read after this one, so I just kind of went nah.
Yeah,
and,
I got you.
Yeah, I get it. I kind of fell off them because they felt a little bit. 1, you know, not big on Ghostmaker. 2, they felt a bit inconsequential. 3, just didn't really love the art. So kind of a combination of things. So just like
it's what the art doesn't mind. This is what I wish Riley Rosmo art was like.
It is like a better Riley Rosmo, but it's still not to my taste.
No, it's very manga influenced, and very frenetic, and it's perfect for Ghostmaker, so it doesn't bother me. I wouldn't like to see this style of art in like Superman. You know what I mean? It needs to like characters that are very frenetic and kind of moving all over the place. I wouldn't mind actually seeing it on Flash because it's not as over the top and cartoony as Rosmo's stuff. You know, but yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's nothing great.
Sure. All right, let's rate the book then. You can rate the 2 stories separately if you want, Matt, as well. What are you giving it?
So I'm gonna give the main Batman story an 8, and I'm gonna give the Ghostmaker a 6.5.
Got it?
Yeah, I'm just gonna give it a 7. It's good.
I'll split the difference. I'll say 7.5, mainly just for the pacing being a bit wonky. I just kind of felt it. I was like, wait, we're still in this scene. Like, why haven't we cut back to like? Because there's 2 plot threads effectively, so there was a bold choice to like cut to the second one and do all of it, and then finally go back to the other plot thread. That was just a bit weird.